He gradually takes them to his own confidential realm. Human beings are blinded by their absorption in the bindings of karma and jnana. But Krishna, who is an ocean of mercy, removes their blindness by granting them the honey of his lotus feet. In this way, he makes them servants of those lotus feet. By granting the jewel of independence to those following Vidimar, the path of regulative principles, he allows them to enter Ragmar, the path of spontaneous, loving attachment. Being controlled by such attachment, and taking shelter of Parakiya Bhav, Paramore love, Jiva attains ecstatic love for Krishna. Such devotees are always engaged in drinking from the stream of the nectar of prema, for Krishna is their friend and master. These residents of Braj, who are abodes of auspiciousness, are the refuge of the poor and fallen.
Wow. What a song. You know, this fourth verse of this song, this is usually highlighted out of this song. I've heard it many times quoted. The fourth shloka is saying, Vidi marg rata jane, svadinata ratna dane, rag marge korano pravesh. So here, it's saying that in granting the jewel of independence, so the word svadinata means independence, and it says in svadinata ratna dani. So ratna means jewel, the jewel of independence, svadinata ratna dani. By granting the jewel of independence to those following Vidhimarg. Vidhimarg Rata Jani. The persons who are following Vidhimarg, Swadinata Ratnadani, by granting the jewel of independence to them, Rag Marge Korano Pravesh. This means he allows them to enter Rag Marg, which is the path of spontaneous loving attachment.
How does granted independence relate to that?
Because, see, I'm just going to read the rest of it and then we'll see. So, Rag Vasavarti Hoye, Parakiya Bhav Ashraye, Labhe Jeev Krishna Prem Avesh. Being controlled by such attachment, Rag Vashavarti Hoy, Vasha means to be controlled. So, being controlled by such attachment and taking shelter of Parakiya Bhav, we all know what that is, Paramore love, then Labhe Jeev Krishna Premavesh. The jiva attains ecstatic love for Krishna. The verse before this one, because this song is leading up to it. I actually want to read the song and highlight some of the points that are being made in the song. But let's begin. And also today I want to read Srila Gurudev's Katha from Gaur Purnima. It's not a Gaur Purnima lecture, but it's a lecture that he gave in Australia. It's on the Hari Katha. He gave this in Australia. But it's a very amazing presentation. It's quite suitable for Gaur Purnima time because it's all describing Gaur Tattva and so many beautiful emotions of Mahaprabhu. So that's what I wanted to cover tonight. Why not? It's still Gaur Purnima. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jutaha Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Mukam Kuroti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Vande Shri Gurun Dinataranam Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo Mahabhadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gaura Tvishe Namaha Nityanandam Namastubhyam Premananda Pradayane Kalo Kalmashanashaya Janavapataye Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Brindai Tulsi Debai Priyai Keshavasya Cha Krishna Bhakti Prade Devi Satyavachai Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I offer my Dandavat Pranams and my Shraddha Pushpanjali at the lotus feet of my most worshipable beloved Gurudev, Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Asto Tarasata Shri Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada. And the same unlimited Dandavat Pranams and Shraddha Pushpanjali at the lotus feet of my most worshipable beloved Siksha Gurudevs, Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Astatarasata Shri Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Goswami Maharaj, and Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Astatarasata Shri Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. My Dandavat pranams to the lotus feet of all of my Sri Rupa Nuga Guru Varga, and my Dandavat pranams to all the Vaishnavas and all the Vaishnavis. So we were just singing this song of Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur before we started this class, and it's a very, very beautiful and very deep song. Shuno he rasika jan. So here, Bhakti Vinod Thakur is speaking to a particular class of devotees. He's speaking to those devotees who are rasika. And rasika is not a cheap thing. It's not a very easy thing to become a rasik jan. Because rasik actually means that you are capable of tasting bhakti rasa. You have come to this qualification that you can actually experience and taste bhakti rasa. Now, are we tasting bhakti rasa in our neophyte stage of executing the regulative practices of bhakti, vaidhi, sadhana bhakti? Are we tasting bhakti rasa? No? Okay, now you're going to have to defend your answer by explaining your reason for saying no, your proof.
I guess we would have to break down like what kind of rasa we could be experiencing.
Oh, microphone.
I was thinking maybe we could have to break down what kind of rasa we're experiencing and what kind of bhakti. If we're talking about like the pure Shuddha bhakti ras, I really doubt that we are experiencing that. But if we can experience some kind of maybe karma mishra bhakti and some abhas of some vaidhi ras, kind of like a dasya ras, then we might experience a little bit of a hint of that. But a pure bhakti ras, I don't think so, because I heard that bhajan means when one is devoid from all the anarthas and everything. But until then, we're doing archan, and archan is still in the vaidhi platform. So my speculation.
It's not speculation. You've quoted the authorities and pretty accurate. Anyone else want to add anything to that?
I just have a question.
Yeah.
So for those who come, especially those who live under a lot of sacrifice and such in Krishna consciousness for years and years and years and years and years, how is it that they can continue unless even some kind of glimmer of Rasa's experience that would impel them, having known that this goal is real, to continue? Just a question.
Okay.
I guess I would add the same thing. I know I'm full of material desires, so I'm not tasting ras. But if there weren't significant moments in my life, if some little door or window opened, I wouldn't have been able to go on. So I feel the same way.
Mm-hmm. Anyone want to add anything? Okay, here's the thing now. The question was, are we tasting bhakti rasa? So, Jai Govinda Prabhu gave pretty good answer. Actually, to know whether we're tasting bhakti rasa or not, first of all, we have to be familiar, at least. We have to have some understanding of what is bhakti rasa. Otherwise, how are you going to be able to determine if you're tasting bhakti rasa? Give you an example. Our acharyas have had major, battles with a section of persons who are called prakrita sahajiyas. You're all familiar with prakrita sahajiyism. The prakrita means material. And sahajiyism. Actually, one of the types of prakrita sahajiyas, there's apasampradayas, and they actually call themselves sahajiya. Because you know what the term sahajiya actually means? Natural. It means natural. Sahajiya. But prakrita sahajiya is the name given by our acharyas, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, to that class of persons who imagine that they are tasting bhakti rasa, a very high experience of emotions in hearing Krishna's pastimes and so forth. But actually, what he explains is that they are imitating. Bhaktivinoda Thakur also imitating. Bhakti rasa is one thing, imitation of bhakti rasa is entirely different. It's like night and day. It's like night and day. Bhakti rasa is an eternal principle that descends down from the transcendental, eternal, spiritual realm. And it will come as the devotee's heart becomes more and more purified, and he comes into the higher stages of bhakti, particularly into the stage of ruchi. That's the beginning. Taste, actual taste. In that stage of ruchi, that's called madhyam madhyam, Gurudev used to say that a devotee who is trying to accept the responsibility of service by taking the position of guru, initiating guru and so forth, they should be at least in the stage of madhyam madhyam, which means ruchi. But he also told us who are not in the stage of ruchi that if you are serving under the guidance of Shri Guru and Guru is instructing that you should serve in this way, then that is your authorization. But even Srila Gurudev has told that really sannyas should be given to those who are in the stage of bhav. Yes. Now, we're talking about the phenomena of bhakti rasa. And Rupa Goswami has actually presented an entire thesis in his book Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, wherein he explains very thoroughly what is bhakti rasa and what are the components of bhakti rasa. You've heard these before. Anubhav, Sattvic Bhav, Vyavechari Bhav, like this. And also the principle, the phenomena of how Shuddha Sattva Visheshatma Prema Suryam Susamya Bhak. That this descends down, the pure principle, Shuddha Sattva Vishesh Atma. And Gurudev says, Rupa Goswami is using somewhat cryptic language here. Shuddha Sattva. We know that the material world is called Mishra Sattva, because Sattva means existence. Sattva. So here it's all Mishra Sattva, which means mixed. It's all mixed with the different modes of material nature. We know that Sattva Gun is called goodness. It's the same word, Sattva, right? But the term pure goodness is utilized when we speak about Shuddha Sattva. And it means pure existence also. So there is no pure existence in the material realm, only in the spiritual realm. Everything is composed of Shuddha Sattva. And Shuddha Sattva Visheshatma means a particular transformation of that Shuddha Sattva is descending down like a particle of a ray of prema into the heart of the sadhak. Shuddha Sattva Visheshatma Prema Suryam Susamyabhak Ruchi Bis Chitta Mashrinya. When that occurs, then Ruchi Bis means various ruchis and tastes are experienced by the devotee which has an effect on his heart. Chitta mashrinya means his heart becomes melted by that. Ruchibis chitta mashrinya. Tada so bhava uchyate. This is called bhav. So what is that? Srila Gurudev explains, and Rupa Goswami also explains, this phenomena of Shuddha Sattva Visheshatma descending down like Prema Surya Amshu Samyabhak, into the heart of the devotee, a particle of a ray of prema. Prema Surya Amshu. When that occurs, what is actually taking place is that a combination of, we know the three potencies, Ladini, Samvit, and Sandini, okay? So, Ladini and Samvit potency combined together, this is what is descending down. Where is it coming from? It's coming from the heart of the eternal associates of Krishna. It is emanating from their heart, because now the devotee is at the point where he's already beginning to realize his internal spiritual identity, Siddha Swarupa, his perfected spiritual form, is coming to him in the stage of asakti. So now, Bhakti Devi herself, in the form of a combination of Samvit potency and Ladini potency, combines together and descends onto the platform of what? Sandini, which means that relationship that the devotee has internally, beginning to experience, now it becomes fully manifest. And that's why these various ruchis now begin to actually melt his heart, completely melting his heart. That devotee is now called Siddha, perfected. But he's in the beginning stages of Siddha, beginning stages, and then later gradually advancing. And when he is about to reach the stage where prema begins to dawn in his heart, then Yogamaya arranges for him to leave this body and to be transported in any universe. That's pretty amazing that Yogamaya can transfer you from this universe to any other material universe where the pastimes of Krishna are taking place currently. And then that devotee takes birth. That's called Vastu Siddhi. He takes birth from the womb of a Brajagopi. And now he has his eternal spiritual form. So this is called Bhakti Rasa. Bhakti Rasa has all these different components. But unless the devotee has arrived at this level, he cannot fully experience and taste Bhakti Rasa. Anything before that is either an abhas, as Jai Govinda Prabhu told. What does abhas mean?
Semblance.
Semblance. Not the real thing. It is a semblance of that. It's called Bhakti Abhas. There's also different types of Bhakti Abhas. Chaya Bhakti Abhas. Pratibimba Bhakti Abhas. Then also he mentioned different types of mixed bhakti. Karma Mishra, Jnana Mishra, and so forth. That's all broken down by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in Bhagavad Gita. You can read very clearly how that's explained. So what is it? This is the question that must be answered for us, because we are not experiencing that phenomena. But what are we experiencing? What is a devotee experiencing from day one? When he comes into contact with the pure Vaishnavas, with the holy name, with all the elements of bhakti, there is certainly very easy to detect for the conditioned soul that this is something different than ordinary material enjoyment. This is something different. And it is. It is something different. It's the beginning stage of Shraddha. And that Shraddha, we know. The whole sequence we've heard many, many times. Ado Shraddha, Tatak Sadhu Sangha, Tavajana Kriya, Anartha Nivritti, like this, Nishta, Ruchi. We know what these sequences are. So, when the conditioned soul begins to perform Sharanagati, this is actually how you can determine whether or not Shraddha has really made its appearance. Because the outward symptom will be Sharanagati. The beginning of surrendering to Krishna. And from that first moment, Krishna is reciprocating. He is definitely reciprocating. And that reciprocation of Krishna is very enjoyable. It produces beautiful changes within the heart, purification within the heart. All of this is going on. And we're being brought to the mode of goodness because we know that unless somebody is coming to the mode of goodness, he cannot begin to experience bhakti rasa. First, you have to reach the mode of goodness. So that's why the lifestyle is given. How to live, regulative principles, chanting, all these different activities, purifying the heart. Srimad Bhagavatam, Nashta Praishu Abhadreshu, all the abhadras, all the inauspicious things gradually becoming cleansed. So this experience, because you're directly experiencing, oh yes, my heart is becoming cleansed. I had such and such desires, now that has changed. So kama, lobha, dayaschaye, lust, anger, greed, illusion, all of these things, they will automatically be removed. And then one can gradually come to the stage of Nishta, right? And the stage of Nishta is beginning of Madhyam Adhikar, and it's the stage in which most of the anarthas are not hindering the devotee so much. A little bit is still there, you see. But as he advances stage by stage, more and more powerful. So, like even the semblance of bhakti, right? Even that semblance has great joy attached to it. Because bhakti is a manifestation of Ladini Shakti. Gurudev told one time, he said, if you are doing bhakti, then you must be happy. You absolutely must be happy if you're doing bhakti. If you're not happy, that means you're not doing bhakti. At least not properly, right? You must be happy because bhakti is composed of Ladini Shakti. But even when it's in its initial stages of bhakti abhas, it's very auspicious for the jiva. The jiva must go through that. There is no way of the jiva's bypassing, like jumping up all of a sudden. That's what the problem with the Prakriti Sahajiyas. It's all imitation. It's not the real thing. It's all counterfeit. Therefore, it's rejected by all the pure Vaishnavas. They can very easily detect, very easily. But regular or normal people, they may be completely misled and misguided by the false so-called exhibitions of ecstatic moods and all of this. We've seen it many times, have we not? We've seen it many times. It's very easy to cheat persons who do not have very much background and shastric knowledge and some realization. It's very easy to misguide them and cheat them. So, I'm saying all this because the topic of this is directed to those who are rasika. But at least those who are truly aspiring for these higher stages. We want that. We don't have it yet, but we want that. We desire that. And we're working in that direction and hoping that all the necessary transformations of heart and so forth, they will come about in due course of time. And we continue on with this faith, with this hope. So, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying, Shuno he rasika jan. Oh, listen, oh, those who relish nectarian mellows. Krishna guna aganan, the transcendental qualities of Sri Krishna are innumerable. Ananta kahite nahi pare. Even Lord Ananta, who has millions of hoods and mouths, he cannot describe them all. So first thing is Krishna's qualities. Jai Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Radha Govinda Ki Jai. Could you give me the lamp? It's a little difficult for me to read this print. Thank you. So, Krishna Guna Aganan, that means that the transcendental qualities of Krishna, they are innumerable, and even Lord Ananta, Kahite Nahi Pari, even he has millions of hoods and mouths, he cannot describe them all. So this is something that we can't really understand fully. We hear it, that Krishna's qualities are unlimited. They're innumerable. You can't even count them. But we are in a very, very limited, how do you say, perception, limited perception, right? But those who are completely aware of the unlimited qualities of Krishna, namely his own expansion, Anantadev, they can never even count the qualities of Krishna. When we see Krishna's pastimes in this world, how he showed within his mouth to Mother Yashoda the entire universe, how he showed to Lord Brahma that all the cowherd boys are him, and they're all Vishnu forms, unlimited. And Brahma became so stunned and so astonished, he fainted, because he realized how insignificant and tiny his power is compared to Krishna's. So if Lord Brahma can even become like, then what to speak of us? We're not even being given a glimpse of it because we could never even tolerate it, you know. But Brahma was being shown. So the Rasika Jan, they relish Krishna's qualities. They're not trying to just count his qualities and so forth. So then he goes on and he says, Krishna Jagatera Guru, Krishna Vancha Kalpa Taru. Krishna is the spiritual master of the entire universe. That's a pretty big thing, to be the spiritual master of the entire universe. But it's not just one universe. Billions of universes, but he's just telling for this universe. And he is a wish-fulfilling desire tree. Krishna Vancha Kalpataru. Na Vikase Bhava Paramari. He is the navigator, and he is guiding us across the ocean of material existence. Isn't that wonderful? That Krishna is guiding each and every one of us, because he knows everything. He's in everyone's heart, and he's trying to bring us to him, and he does it perfectly. That's why the pure, surrendered souls, they embrace fully whatever's going on, because they fully understand Krishna's bringing me to him. He's purifying me. I have to go through this. This is what he wants me to go through right now. Ultimately, it is absolutely auspicious and favorable, right? That's called surrender. Not an easy thing, but doable. It is doable by the conditioned souls. We can't attain bhakti rasa right away, but you know what? we can execute the process of surrender. We can voluntarily embrace Krishna as our guardian. We can voluntarily embrace Krishna as our protector, right? We can voluntarily obey all the items of bhakti that are very favorable. We can embrace those, and we can avoid those that are unfavorable. This is showing to Krishna, yes, I desire this. We can't be hypocrites. There's no room for hypocrisy in Sharanagati. Sharanagati has, like the way Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj explains it, is we have to bare our soul fully. He even says, like, coming before the Lord naked. Here I am. This is my condition. Please do what you see is necessary, okay, to me, to help me come to you. And that can be done even from the first day of coming in contact with Krishna Bhakti, right? Because if we're adopting the things that are favorable, if we come into the association with Vaishnavas, or any jiva does, anywhere in the world, anywhere in the universe, and they're told by Sadhu Guru Shastra, you chant every day 16 rounds. And you do that. What are you doing? You're doing Sharanagati. You are doing surrender to Krishna, because that's what he wants you to do. Now, if you can't do that, Krishna has given alternatives in the Bhagavad Gita. Remember those sequence of verses? Can you tell? You have a microphone?
Well, first, prior to even surrendering to the principles of Bhakti Yoga, it's one who is absorbed in Krishna. So if you can't do that, then at least follow the principles.
Yeah, always remember me.
Always remember.
Right.
So then at least follow the principles
Yes.
of Bhakti Yoga.
And he said, you will then do what? When you follow the principles of Bhakti Yoga, you will develop a desire to attain me.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, okay, go on.
Okay, and then he says, if you can't follow the principles of Bhakti Yoga,
Yeah.
then at least engage in...
I think he said, try to work for me.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah.
At least try to
work for me.
Work for me. Right.
And then?
If you can't do that, I used to know, then at least give something to me, or
desire for the fruits.
Try to work without being attached to the fruits. Just like in a general, generic way, right? Then?
And if you can't do that, then meditation, was it? Wait.
There's one more.
Yeah, there is one.
No. Just try to work for a good cause.
That's right. And if you can't do that, then there's meditation and knowledge.
Yeah, and then there's... Right.
Okay. Right.
See, so Krishna is not rejecting any jiva's efforts to approach him. This is what the Vaishnavas respect, actually, because ultimately all jivas are on Krishna's path. He says that, right? Everyone follows my path in all respects. So the Vaishnavas are always encouraging. But when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu descended, he and Nityananda Prabhu inaugurated the Sankirtan movement, and now made it possible for all the jivas, if they're fortunate, simple-hearted, they can come directly to the path of bhakti. Of course, some previous life samskaras are part of that, but at the same time, they can become very rapidly purified. And they can begin to embrace and adopt the most favorable of all activities. Of all activities that are favorable, the topmost one is what?
Arya.
Yes, Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj explains that in his book Prapanna Jivanamrita. Because Prapanna Jivanamrita has 6 chapters explaining the 6 limbs of bhakti. And the first chapter is Anukulyasya Sankalpa, accepting everything favorable. Then he quotes the first verse from Sikshastakam. And then he explains how there is nothing as favorable as Harinam Sankirtan. So, it's kind of an amazing phenomena that certain jivas just float up to the shore of the pure devotee's lotus feet, and they're coming from whatever background, and the pure devotee is traveling the world and bringing the jivas out of the material ocean and placing them in the association of the Vaishnavas and assigning them, now you do this. See? And we saw that this happened a lot, and it's still happening, and it will always be happening, that some jivas, they just simply come and they say, okay, I can do that. I'm very happy to be here with all of you, and I like to chant. Okay, I'll chant. I'll try to chant 16 rounds every day. They adopt the program. Yes, I'll follow these regulated principles. In some cases, there may be a few problems there, but I'm trying. I'd like to do it, you see. So just by that, the jiva has begun on the path of true surrender, sharanagati. And then gradually, everything will come. So, Hridaya Pidita Jar, Krishna Chikitsaka Tar. Chikitsaka means doctor. So, Bhavarog Nashite Chatur. Bhavarog means material disease of the heart. Krishna Bahir Mukh Jane, Premamrita Vitarane, Krame Loy Nija Antapura. So here he's saying, for those whose hearts are ill, that means Hridaya Pidita. Pidita means illness. So for those whose hearts are ill, which basically is all the jivas, then Krishna Chikitsaka. Okay. Krishna Chikitsakatar. Krishna is the doctor for them. And he's very expert at destroying the disease of material existence. By distributing the nectar of praying to all those who are averse to him, he gradually takes them to his own confidential realm. Yes, krame loy nija antapura. Karma bandha, jnana bandha, avesha manava anda, tare Krishna karuna sagar. Human beings, they're blinded by their absorption in the bindings of karma and jnana. But Krishna, who is an ocean of mercy, he removes their blindness. And how does he do that? Pada Padma Madhudiya. He grants them the honey of his lotus feet. Andabhav Guchaiya. In this way, he removes their blindness. Charane Korena Anuchar. And in this way, he makes them servants of his lotus feet. Now Vidimarg Rata Jane Swadinata Ratnadani. Rag Marge Karana Pravesh. Now, by granting the jewel of independence to those following the Vidimarg, of the path of regulated principles, he allows them to enter Rag Marg, the path of spontaneous loving attachment. Now, what does this mean? Swadhinata, independence, the jewel of independence. When the jiva has become sufficiently purified and also has samskaras developed, then Krishna grants them the jewel of independence by bringing them, enabling them to come on the path of Rag Marg, spontaneous loving attachment. We want this. We want this because that path of Rag Marg Bhakti is Braj Bhakti. This is what Gurudev came to give. Whenever he's talking about Braj Bhakti, he's talking about Rag Marg Bhakti. To follow the eternal associates of the Lord and to have this simple-hearted mood toward Him. I want to have this relationship with you. I want to serve you like Mother Yashoda, like, Sridham, Sudam. So that begins to dawn in the devotee's heart. And what it means by independence, it means that now he doesn't have to be forced by regulative principles or by fear, because in the path of Vaidhi sadhana, some fear element is there that if I don't follow, I'll be punished, I'll suffer. So some fear element is there. But in Rag Marg, that's not there. Rag Marg pathway is attraction to what? The sweetness of Krishna's leelas, his pastimes. And that is guiding the heart. It doesn't mean that the devotee doesn't follow regulated principles, but it means that he now has this independence because now he has this natural attraction growing in his heart. This is a jewel granted by Krishna to the sadhak. So then, Rag Vashavarti hoye parakiya bhav ashraye labhe jeev Krishna prema vesha. Now being controlled by such attachment and taking shelter of parakiya bhav, the jiva attains ecstatic love for Krishna. So here it says Rag Vashavarti hoye. Here he is controlled by Rag. The jiva who now comes into the path of Rag Marg, he becomes controlled by these attachments to Krishna, because this mood is already beginning to dawn in the heart that I want to serve Krishna in this way like his eternal associates. So that means Vashavarti. That means being subdued, being controlled by that. Then, and then in that stage, taking shelter of Parakiya Bhav. Parakiya Bhav Ashraye. He's now taking shelter of those moods of the Braja Gopis. Parakiya Bhav Ashraye. That's why in Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's what is the title? I'm just forgetting. The book that has each chapter is representing one verse of the Sikshastakam. Bhajan Rahasya. Yeah. In Bhajan Rahasya, there are so many verses that in the 5th chapter onwards, now Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is quoting the various shlokas and verses from songs of the gopis, Gopi Geet, Venu Geet, and the mood of Gopi Bhav, but especially Parakiya Bhav, because Gopi Bhav means Parakiya, right? There's no such thing as Gopi Bhav without Parakiya Rasa. Because all the gopis, they are not married. They have their so-called husbands, but their beloved is Krishna. So that is Parakiya Bhav, the moods of Parakiya. Something?
I can see how...
Mike?
I can see how independence applies in the stage of Vaidhi Bhakti, because you can do it or you cannot do it. It's you accept or reject your independence. But when one is at the stage of Rag Marg, there's no question of rejecting. You're there. You're completely under the eternal potency. So how would independence apply in that case?
Because, look, the jiva has misused his independence. We usually think about independence as being our free will, okay? Jiva has misused it for millions of lives, in many, many species of life. So when the jiva begins to turn towards Krishna, then it's the opposite of what he's been doing for many lifetimes, misusing his independence and turning away from Krishna. So, yes, now his independence is being granted to the extent that he is eligible for that, right? And he's making his choices. He's submitting himself to the process by which his intelligence becomes purified, and then he begins to understand how he should always be Sharanagata. So when he's always acting as surrendered soul and embracing everything favorable and rejecting everything unfavorable, now he is proving how trustworthy he is. The point is that we think of independence as in terms of the free will, and that is true. But the jiva in the material world is falsely independent. It's not true independence. Falsely independent. Because why? Because he's completely covered by Maya and illusion. So he may be making his choices, but when the jiva becomes purified and comes into the path of Shuddha Bhakti, this is real independence. Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar is told, the jivas who are in the transcendental realm as associates of Krishna, they are the most independent jivas in the whole creation. He gives the example of Mother Yashoda. Mother Yashoda is so independent because of her extreme praying for Krishna, she can even whip him with a stick. What kind of independence? Free will. Huh? So that can never be imitated. But this is describing the dawning of that true independence in Rag Marg, and then coming into Parakiya Bhav, Ashray, taking full shelter of the moods of the gopis. Then Labhe Jeev Krishna Prem Avesh. Yeah? Then the jiva attains Krishna Prem Avesh, ecstatic love for Krishna. And the final verse of this song, Premamrita Varidhara, Sada Pan Ratatara, Krishna Tahader Bandhu Pati. Such devotees are always engaged in drinking from the stream of the nectar of prem. Premamrita, nectar of prem. Varidhara, the stream. Sada pan ratataras, always pan means drinking. Always drinking from the stream of the nectar of prem. Krishna tahader bandhu pati. For Krishna is their friend, their bandhu, and their pati, their master. Say sab brajajan, say sab brajajan, these residents of Braja, sukalyana niketana, they are the abodes of auspiciousness, sukalyana, extreme kalyana, auspiciousness. And dinheen vinoder gati, they are the refuge of this poor and fallen bhakti vinod. What song, huh?
Here's the man. He shows it.
No, he didn't choose it. Krishna chose it and made him open up the page to that page, right?
I just flipped open.
Yes. He only gets the credit of flipping the pages, that's all. Yeah.
I
Go ahead.
was asking, okay, I assume it's a question. So, from what you just said, the independence I heard this from Srila Prabhupada directly on a morning walk, that your only independence is to choose to be under the influence of Mahamaya or under the influence of Yogamaya, but always you'll be under the control of one or the other. So that's our independence.
Yes. The jiva cannot be without one of these two potencies. Because for the jiva to exist in the material world, he has to be covered. He has to be completely placed into illusion, believing I'm this body, this is my family, this, in order to go on. Why? Because he misused his independence. Now, okay, you can be independent now, but you'll have to face the consequences of your independence. But the Yogamaya independence, that's when the jiva has achieved prema. All the prema bhaktas, they're all completely under Yogamaya. All the time, 24 hours. Even when they're coming into this realm, playing the role of acharya and so forth, they are completely under Yogamaya. There is no Mahamaya influence. What is that?
Dogs.
What's the dogs? Wow, okay. It almost sounded like some kind of musical performance. So, what was the point again?
Well,
that the jiva
so many questions would be coming here so late at night.
Yeah.
So for that full surrender, which is just like the beginning you said, just being fully surrendered.
Yeah.
It seems that in the use of independence, the individual just would be surrendering almost. It's almost like a madness that I'm just going to give up my mind, my everything, any kind of conceptions, and that independence is given up, but that means the jiva would give up everything, his whole misconception of self, of relations. It's almost like a kind of madness, in that sense. I mean, not a pure madness, but compared to the usual workings of the mind and conceptions, feelings of duty, this and that.
Well, that's why Prabhupada spoke that old lecture, who is crazy? Right?
He said we should become mad after Krishna.
Yes, and like the verse in the second chapter of Gita, where Krishna is saying what is night to all beings is the time of awakening for the self-controlled, and like that. So those who are under that influence, they will look at those who are beginning to awaken as being crazy. It doesn't make sense to them, But the thing is, giving up our independence, it doesn't mean that you're in some neutral zone. No. From the very beginning, you're using your senses to serve Krishna. And as that mood of Sharanagati deepens, then Bhaktivinoda Thakur shows in his song how the moods of the devotee will flow towards Krishna by saying, Manasa Deha Geho Yokicham. Whatever I have, Arpilu Tua Padeka Manandakisha. I'm surrendering this to your lotus feet. So everyone has a uniquely personal relationship with Krishna. And so when Krishna becomes your bandhu and your pati in the stage of prema, then he becomes everything to the devotee. So when the true mamata, the true possessiveness, real true possessiveness of the Atma to the Supreme Atma, which is the true relationship that we have, then automatically all the temporary relationships, they all fall to the side. doesn't necessarily mean that they stop functioning in that relationship, but they now function in that relationship only to serve Krishna. They have no attachment to anything other than Krishna. So now is the Artik time, yeah? Okay. So, Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. I think tomorrow we'll read that other lecture of Gurudev's. I'm happy that we spent time on this song. Now I'm familiar with it.
That was great.
Hare Krishna.